Hi, Margie.
Well, I guess we'll just get started then.
Okay, great.
Yeah?
Let's start. Sure.
All right, great. So, good afternoon, all, and welcome to another Sundays with BELTA. My name is Ellen de Preter, and I'm the Vice President of BELTA, the Belgian English Language Teachers Association. We are joined today by another member of a slightly bigger association, also pretty well known. I'm not really sure if it's as well known as BELTA. I'm joking, of course, because I'm talking about the mother of all teachers associations, IATEFL. And we are very fortunate today to be joined by none other than its new president, Marjorie Rosenberg. Marjorie Rosenberg is a very busy lady. She's not only the president of IATEFL, but she is also a teacher. She teaches general and business English at the University of Graz, which is in Austria, and has published widely in the field of business English. She is the author of 2 workbooks for Cambridge University, the Press Flagship Series and Business Advantage. And she also has authored 2 books with photocopyable materials for business English instruction. Not only that, but she also writes, on top of that, she also writes for the CUP websites and writes activities and jargon busters. With so many business English materials to her name, it is no wonder that today's talk will also be business related. Her talk, which is more told, is titled Never the Twain Shall Meet, Differences in Teaching General and Business English. General English teachers may be reluctant to make the change to business English, especially if they have never worked outside of the school or university system. However, the stretch into a new area may be less daunting than many think. There are differences, of course, as business English is more purpose-driven and needs to include specific areas of vocabulary. But for those interested in taking on the challenge, this workshop aims to provide practical tips on how to get started. Marjorie, we are very curious about your talk. The room is yours, and John will start recording now, I do believe.
The button's already on. Okay, so is the sound okay, everyone? Yes, wonderful. Okay, hi, everybody. It's not sunny here, but it's at least sort of getting warmer. Fuzzy, Margie. I don't know what to do about the fuzziness. It could be my headset. Um, Usually works okay. Is anyone else getting fuzzy sound? Yes, it was. Okay, is this now better? I'm holding the headset. Okay, so taking a look at this, we're going to go to the first slide. This is basically how to transition from general English into business English. It may seem incredibly daunting. Yeah, I'm holding the little microphone thing here. But when you take a look at what the similarities are, you start to see that it is not as much of a problem as you may think. So let's start off with similarities and differences. So we have here a Venn diagram, and if you could type into the chat box some things that you think are only general English, just a few. There is a handout on this because the slide is not easy to read online, but there's a PDF there. But if you could type in 1 or 2 things you think are only in general English and write GE, and perhaps you could type in things you think are only business English and write BE in front of them. I'm just waiting to see what people come up with. And there are no right or wrong answers here, obviously, unless you find something that totally doesn't fit, but that's not usually the case. Okay, yes, introductions. Okay, well, the both is coming. Presenting, writing, presenting, negotiating, meeting, socializing, telephoning. Okay. Yes, they need GE vocab, but some of them actually fit in as well in general English. Of overlap, informal emails, letters, general English. Okay. Okay, I'll wait for Ben and then we'll take a look at what my ideas were. And the handout is there to be downloaded. I saw it earlier, but John can explain that. Okay, well, we'll go to the next slide and have a look. Okay, general English. It also has to do with where we teach this. This is often a free time activity for people. So this is where you get those people who come to an evening class just to kind of socialize, relax. Colloquial language would be more GE, I agree. There's possibly more flexibility of language, of lesson plans, could be. A wide variety of games, although you can use them in business English as well. The atmosphere may be more relaxed, especially in adult ed. I'm mostly concentrating here on adult ed, less so on university or school where you have to give exams and people are being tested. This is also not referring to exam preparation classes. You might use more music, literature comes up more often in general English. Trying to read my notes here. It can be a social event. I don't know how many of you have taught in adult ed classes, but there are people who take them because they enjoy the socializing. Whereas business English may be in an adult ed center, but they are very often in company courses, and companies don't normally pay for people to have social events with their teachers. Whereas general English very often is paid for by the person. And of course, awareness of grammar and lexis, but that is also necessary in business English. So going to the next one, which is the business English. Here you really do have the specialized vocabulary and language in order to get the job done. That is not found in general English. Motivation may be related to the job. You may have an HR director saying, what level is the person at? We expect them to get to ... by a certain time. That's probably not happening in general English. Negotiation and presentation techniques, that came up. It's more goal-oriented. Business correspondence, not just informal emails, but really inquiries, answering complaints, these kinds of things. Assessment may be more on content. When I teach at university level, I teach business English, I assess content as well as language. I might ask them, what is a balance sheet or what is a income statement? Where those kinds of questions come up less often in my general English classes, unless you're teaching a specific subject. And it may be more formal. It's very possible. But the overlap is also there. So let's have a look. We need grammar, we need functions. Students are afraid of mistakes. They still need everyday English, very important. They need small talk, and especially in countries where small talk is not done in their own language. In Austria, small talk is not big among everyone. Some people are very good at it, but some are not. And learning to do it in business may be essential. Survival English can be found in both. My partner told me a story of colleagues of his when he was working at Chrysler who took a flight to the States, and they didn't know that it was stopping in a different town than the final destination. They got off the plane. So this is really survival English. They had no idea, they didn't understand the announcement, and they just got off, and then there they were, and had no way to get to where they were trying to get to. And very low English skills to deal with it. They got off from Cleveland, I think, instead of Detroit. Okay, so travel, that's both. Current events, it may be that they need to talk about these, and cultural awareness, which you're going to find in both. So this is a PDF which you can then download afterwards. And of course you can add, change, however you feel, whatever you feel is important. Right, I realized what I meant here. Assessment of grammar and lexis instead of assessment of content. Yeah, I find that more in general English. Does anyone else find that that is true? That when you teach general English and you have to assess, that you're assessing more grammar and lexis than assessing the actual understanding of the content. Would you agree with that? Anyone want to comment on that in the chat box? If you have to assess. Yeah, okay. I mean, we don't always assess. I don't assess at the bank I teach at, but I did assess at university. Okay, going on. So where are we actually teaching? We teach either in upper secondary schools or university level. We teach in the private language school, or we teach in companies. There was a question that came up recently on the BESIC website, the Business English Special Interest Group of IATEFL, asking why we don't address young learners, because young learners has expanded to include those high school students. And I answered it and said, well, yes, of course we teach this at upper secondary. I've written books for this. But we haven't had anyone particularly come up and do a presentation on it. Does anyone here teach the whatever 15 to 19-year-old business English? Yeah, Ben, I agree. Does anyone teach that age group? It's big in Austria. I don't know in other countries if you have these kinds of schools. Here they are commercial high schools. 18 to 21. Okay, I don't think they're considered the young learners any longer. And this came up when we were discussing it. We were writing the school books in English, and then the content teachers who teach business studies said, you're addressing companies in year 2, so they were 16, and we haven't discussed company types until year 3. So it gets a little complicated. We thought the language wasn't too difficult, but they hadn't learned the concept yet. So this is a tricky area if you're teaching upper secondary school kids. Part of secondary school curriculum. Okay, yes. In some countries, it's in the curriculum anyway. And they're starting in the US, I've heard, to teach things like financial responsibility, which is a good idea. Okay, so what's the differences here? Well, at a university, we're not actually teaching them business. We're teaching language about it. We often have to include grammar, which I do much less of in an in-company course. There may be a curriculum. They're usually pre-experienced. I had some university students who had been interns or worked a bit, but they have not had years of experience in business. Whereas when I teach a member of the board, he tells me about business. He's been doing it for years. We have to concentrate on all four skills at university, obviously, again, because we are usually assessing them. And it's usually through tests and exams. Okay, going on. Just having trouble seeing my titles on my laptop. My computer is being fixed at the moment, so I'm using a small laptop. Okay, in a private language school, we might have a mixture of pre-experience and experience. Hard to say. And there you may be given a course book. I don't know if anyone teaches in this kind of situation. Is anyone in a private language school teaching business English? Audrey, I'm not sure if this is what you were going to be doing. And I think this is what a number of the course books are written for. Things like, I'm trying to remember which ones there are. The one by Macmillan that Mark Powell did, In Company, I think it's called, is certainly meant for that particular type of teaching. There are quite a few. That Business Advantage, which I worked on the workbooks for, is a combination of university and some company courses because it deals with the concepts of business, case studies, and language. So it's a little more in the academic area. And this could be a wide range of topics because you don't know who's going to be in your classes. It's generally a general English, a general business English kind of course, so you cover everything. Right, that's what you said. And Remedial Learning Center is what age group, Margie? Is that this 18 to 21-year-olds? and adults as well. Okay. And then moving on to the in-company courses. This is where you generally have to start with a needs analysis. You really need to know what they're doing. One problem we often face is we are told by HR, and then we get the group, and they actually need something different. It's happened to me over and over again. And this is very specialized. At the moment, I have 2 people in the loan modification department who work with clients who are in danger of bankruptcy. So sometimes we read policies on this. I have somebody who's working with mortgages. Again, we look at that very specialized vocabulary. I have a group of project managers, and then I have people in HR, which is a completely different area in the bank. They don't deal with any of the finance things. At the moment, we're looking at training models and coaching or competency documents, how to determine all of this, completely different. And this is really how we do business. It's not about business. If we use course books, which I'm using one for project managers, one for HR, but they're specialized. And the report on progress is not done through assessments. It's reporting to HR. I had a call yesterday, no, sorry, it was Saturday, on Friday, from one of the HR people saying, real quick, I just need to know what level is so-and-so at. And we may also take part in real business meetings or events. I had to attend a meeting with my HR people and the HR boss from, I think it was Macedonia, because they want to make sure that they got it all. And her English is excellent. And every now and then I translate it into German for my group. And the lessons may change suddenly due to needs. You might get to a lesson and they say, I've got to give a presentation tomorrow. We need to go through this. And you didn't prepare, but this is what you do. That sound familiar to anybody? Agree with that about HR. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Okay, moving on to the next one. So what is business English? Well, it does have to do with tasks and goals. It has a purpose. It's also about building relationships and being very culturally aware and understanding what other cultures need. It's time sensitive. It's not something that they do in their, well, they might have to do it in their free time, but they need to have it done by a certain time. And they need to know how to use that specialized vocabulary. Appropriate register is incredibly important, and it's very priorities based. So they are looking at specific things. They may not want everything. They might need to know about food. They might not. It all depends. Okay, and their interactive skills. These are all areas, I don't think I need to read them out to you. Is there anything here that you have come across that you think is really important for these people? Anything I've left out? I don't see anyone typing. Margie's typing, okay. I mean, reporting on information or giving opinions in a way that they will be discussed. So many are culturally based. Interesting. Which do you think are culturally based, Margie? I mean, are there cultures that, yes, turn taking and learning how to interrupt. I mean, Finland, I think, is very different. We have someone, yeah, Elizabeth, you're in Finland. I think interrupting is not really part of the culture, or at least that was the impression I got when I was there. People wait for the other person to finish speaking. Negotiating is very definitely a cultural thing. Interpersonal communication. Ah, thanks, Ben. I agree. Yes, definitely. Giving good feedback. Oh, wonderful. Building trust. Yes. Reaching consensus. Oh, yeah. No, we're known as a very silent people. Yes. Okay, I agree, it is cultural, and you know the areas you're teaching in. I try to find out what I can from my students when I start, but there's always something new to learn. Okay, so moving on. What reading skills? And I've added some things here, I believe. And of course there's more, but these specialized texts, these policies. Emails, of course, they might need manuals, they might not. Memos, memos are generally short bits of information that they get, informing them of something, directives, reports and proposals. They might need articles, they might not. It all depends. They might need websites and, of course, interpreting graphs and charts and possibly professional forms. Is there anything else anybody would add there? A few people typing. And I will make the slides available as a PDF afterwards, or I'm not sure if John already has it. You can let me know when we're done. Abbreviations. Ah, yes. Yes. Great. Thanks, John. Okay. Manuals written by people who don't know English. Yeah, well, that's, I can't read them even if they are written by people who do know English. So manuals are tricky. Writing skills. These are the ones that I came up with in talking to my students. Contracts is really, really tricky. I have never taught contracts, but some of them may know how to read them or may actually need to write them, and reading them, of course, as well. Learning how to write minutes is something you can do. Reports and proposals, emails and memos are all fairly straightforward to teach. Presentations is also something you can work on, and learning how to write the notes for them is very helpful. And of course, schedules, plans, and note-taking, helping them to do that. I think these are essential skills that you can help them with. So getting started, if you've decided you want to switch over or you want to take on some business English, it's a good idea to decide where you want to do this and the level. Now, how many of you here today are not teaching? I know Margie is interested in going into this. Is everyone else now teaching business English? Yes. And it's such an incredibly wide field. I know we call it business English, but it's very much English for specific purposes as well, because you never know what you're going to have. Okay, Ben's teaching. Okay, so if you are looking to switch, finding, just thinking about what you would like to start with. And it can be basic. I used to do an English for personal assistant courses, which I just had so much fun doing. It was great. Mostly, yeah, Hannah, this is the kind of group you can start with, because we're talking about telephoning and emails and being polite. And I think one of the main things that personal assistants need to do is to give reasons why their boss cannot talk to someone at that moment. I've spent a lot of time sitting and waiting for my board member to have time for me for the lesson, and I hear the assistant on the phone. And it's all those phrases like, may I ask who's phoning? Can you tell me what it's about? I'm very sorry, he's busy for the next week. These kinds of phrases. And that's the sort of thing they need. I had a group once where an apprentice was heard saying to someone on the phone, I'm sorry, he just went to the toilet. And the other personal assistant immediately told her, you never tell anyone that. You have to find another thing to say. So brainstorm it. He's out of the office. He's not here right now. He's just stepped out for a moment, but you don't give details like that. And figuring out, well, start with a needs analysis. Where do they want to go? What do they actually want to be able to do? Do they want to be able to negotiate, or do they just want to be able to make small talk? I met a couple of Germans when my partner was working at Chrysler in the States who knew all the finance vocab. They were there as finance people. They were accountants. They had no problems. But they went shopping one day, and they went to the store Staples, and they looked that up in the dictionary, and that said things like provisions, milk, bread, and all of this. And they went to this huge store in the States and couldn't find the bread or the milk because Staples is a business supply store. And they were completely lost. And they asked me what this thing was called that you have in the office that makes holes in paper. They'd never learned that vocabulary. So we're talking really basics for people whose English is extremely good. I don't have a specific needs analysis document. There are people who work with this. I think Charles Ray is big on needs analysis. I speak with them. I gather the information because everyone I have is different, and I find out what they're interested in. I show them some possibilities, but I'm only teaching in one company at the moment. So I don't have a doc. But there are people that work on this, and I'm sure you can find them online. And coming up with a plan and finding out what's available. And that's what we're going to be looking at very soon. Okay, so moving on. Now, one thing that absolutely is possible is simply to bring ideas along from general English. I started with this. Margie, well, it depends. If it's one person, I do an individual. If it's a group like my project managers, I had a meeting with the boss and her assistant as to what they needed. And I was lucky I'd come back from the BESA conference with a book on project management. They took one look and they said, perfect. They booked it originally, I think it was, I'm guessing, a year ago for 3 months, and we have now continued. It hasn't stopped, and now they've found another book so that we can go on indefinitely. They don't want the lessons to end. So, but that was with 2 people from the group, not with HR. Okay, so bringing these ideas from general English into business English, why not? Adult with a prior, yes, getting to the, yes, I can imagine. Then you have to start at the beginning. You have to start very, very low. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Finding ways to make it enjoyable and useful. Practicing the skills they need. What do they need? Do they need to talk to people? Mostly they're talking to non-native speakers. Realistic situations. But set your boundaries. If you're starting off, don't sell yourself as an expert on finance and expect to go in there being able to explain all this complicated vocabulary. And the last lesson I had with the member of the board, he loves coming up with very difficult vocab. I write a vocabulary list while I'm teaching a one-to-one, and I made a photocopy of it because we had already looked up. He gave me the German words. We looked up the English, and I expanded my vocabulary. And there were things like in perpetuity, which in German is ewige Rente. I had never heard this in my life. But it was interesting. He loves just chatting, and I learned as well. But I would never go in there and say, I can teach you all the vocabulary you need. I can't. I don't know it. Yeah, ongoing vocab list, right. But setting your boundaries, especially at the beginning, is really helpful, and you will feel much better about it. Okay, so we're going to take a look at some specific ideas. And these are some that I have pulled out. Now, I have to say that my inspiration for starting business English were the Jill Hadfield Communication Games books. Does anyone know these? This is what I began with, general English. Yes, okay. All these fun games, all the cards, all the matching together. So when I had the chance to design a course, which I was lucky I was given, I was told I could come up with my own ideas for a business English class at an adult ed center. I started coming up with these kinds of activities. And then I found a publisher in Austria who published the first book I did. And I'm going to show you an example of this. If you can see these. These little cards at the top are the drawing, and then there are the name cards. So there's, I can't remember, there's 2 pages of this, so 20 cards or so. And they had to match them together. They had to talk about them. And this is fairly low level. And we used it for all kinds of things, either for the present progressive, what are you doing? I am checking lists, I'm attending a meeting, I'm making an appointment, or for present simple, I attend meetings every Monday. So after matching them, I also played bingo. I would hand out the cards, give each person 5 of the picture cards, And then I would call off what they were doing, the words. I'd say, he is checking a list. And if they had that card, they turned it over. And when they turned over 5, they then said bingo. This was enormously fun for them. They could use these for miming. They could use them for a variety of activities. They could take one and have the others guess what the activity was with questions like, when do you do it? Where do you do it? How often do you do it? So they were very flexible. And I should say that hopefully this book is going to be reprinted. It was done in Austria in 2001 and is out of print. And I have found a publisher who is interested in redoing it, and I'm hoping we're going to get started this summer. If we do, yeah, it's called Communicative Business Activities. But like I said, it's out of print. You can look and see if it's available somewhere in Amazon, but it does need updating. Juggle tasks, for example, came from an advertisement from an ad in the States that I came across 15 years ago, and now we would say multitasking. So it needs a lot of updating. Okay, great. Any questions about this? And business people love to play games. I've never had a group that didn't like games. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next one. This was a find everyone who activity, which you can write yourself. We all know the find someone who. So the problem is they go out, they're given a card. So these are cut up into bits. And this was for office staff and so on. Things like works with spreadsheet programs. Now there's a word they might not know. They might know the word Excel, but they don't know what's called a spreadsheet program. Computer programs or writes computer programs. Okay, the other chairs meetings. Sometimes they don't know what that means if they're low level, and so on. So they get one strip, they walk around, and they have to find everyone who does this. If they only find someone who does it, they find one person and they sit down. But the idea here was to keep them going. And the person who found the most could be called the winner. And they have to keep making the question, do you work with spreadsheet programs? This is very low level. This is basically A1, low A2, taking a sentence in the present simple, in the third person present simple, and making it into a question. So you can write these for your groups. And they love it because it gets them up, it gets them moving. And very similar to all the things we do in general English. And I have a separate one that I use for secretaries. It had things like keeps the boss's diary, things like that. Any questions about this? Don't see anyone typing. I think it's pretty straightforward. Okay, then this was on formal and informal emails. I hope you can see something. This is from In Business, which is in print. It was a Cambridge University Press photocopied while I did. And here they were given these strips and these strips. They are formal and informal. This is called In Business. They're given all of them, and they have to sort them out, deciding which is formal, which is informal, and then put them together in an order that makes sense. Now, there are some varieties, but they can also try to match the different phrases. So, for example, we have the subject line in one is getting together in August and the other is lunch meeting. And they have to then match those together. I'll go back so you can see here it says lunch meeting and this said getting together in August. And then you've got your salutation, hi Jane, or dear Ms. Turner. Obviously a difference. So they would match those. Those are simple. But when you get things like I've attached some information, and then the equivalent there is take a look at the photos I've attached. You might see people. So they have to then also pinpoint what function is that fulfilling. It's mentioning attachments or inquiries or giving information and so on. And another way to do this is if you have a large group, you could give each person a card. They have to first find the person who has the matching equivalent. If they have formal, they find the informal, and then stand in a row, which makes sense for the letter. It's just another way to do it. I do like these kinds of activities that can be done in different ways so that you have more flexibility when you're teaching. Now, wait for Ellen. comment here. Great, glad you like them. This is why I've loved teaching business English, because you can have just as much fun as you have with general English. Okay, then going on to a 4-in-a-row board. What happens here is, once you've practiced the telephone phrases, or I think these are the telephone ones. Sorry, the scanning was a little difficult, and I did it with a PDF, and it still is maybe a little hard to see, but it's from In Business. They have a whole page of these. I think there are 20 or 25. Must be 25. They need to get 4 in a row. So they roll the dice. If they get a 1, they have to choose a phrase in number 1, number 7, and so on. And they have to answer it or respond to it in some way. And if they have it correct, so they're in pairs, they make an X. Then and that one is gone for their partner, who is O. Then O rolls the dice. If they get 3, they have to choose one of the phrases here, and they respond to it. And if they have it correct, they make their O. The idea is to get 4 in a row and to block your partner. And they sit there with the dice in pairs. They're constantly speaking. Now, some people say, what about the errors? Well, as a teacher, you can walk around and listen. You can make notes that you address afterwards. You, of course, are there as the referee. If anyone says, I don't think what he said was correct, you go over and you listen. And in business, there is a page of suggested answers that you can give to them afterwards and say, okay, homework, take a look at this. Were you close? Did you have other ideas? Have them write something. So this has got lots of different ways you can practice. And the main thing with telephone phrases is they need to say them. It doesn't help if they just learn them. But here they're constantly practicing. So if I take one, I'm trying to find one I can read. May I ask who's calling? Yes, this is Ms. Smith from Electronics Incorporated. So they have to practice saying that without any prompts. They just have to know what to answer to the various questions or functions. If it's a function, it might say, ask for the caller's name. And then they have to say, may I ask who's calling? So they get those phrases. Okay, so moving on. This is what the whole thing looks like. So they have this whole board, and the idea is to get the X's and the O's and to win. And depending on their style, the really analytic ones are figuring out how they can get the 4 in a row, whereas the more global types are just having fun and choosing the ones that they like once they've rolled the dice. Okay. So here's social English. These are cards to match together. These are the functions. So they have this list of, you offer to bring a colleague something, ask a colleague to lend you, and then they have to match these together. And here's some vocabulary. I mean, it's fairly simple, but things like vending machine, which most of mine don't know. They don't know that that's where you buy your Coke or your coffee. Stapler was the word, for example, that the accountants in the States didn't know, for example. And here you can also hand them out, give functions to half the group and answers to the other half, and they read them aloud and they answer them. Different ways of working with this. Okay. This is an activity where they're matching the name of a department together with the function. And there's 2 pages of this. They have to put them together and figure out what the correct answer is, and they find it challenging. This is in the original book, the one that hopefully is going to be redone. But you can, of course, do this for yourself. You could take a place you're working if there are different departments and write up your own important departments. I mean, obviously, my bank does not have a dispatch department. They probably have purchasing, although it could be outsourced. Human resources is there, of course. But other departments, there's no production department, for example. So once they've matched those, what happens here is, these are cards that go with a logic game. So I do the matching one week, and the next week they get these lovely cards saying, the department responsible for the image in the company is in the northeast corner of the building. And they get this grid that they have to fill in. So they might find the northeast corner, but another one might say it's between the department that buys in goods and the department that's in charge of the workers or something. And they don't have that answer yet, so they have to wait. It's a logic puzzle. And they sit there with the cards and they talk about it and they read them aloud, and they have to remember what the name of the department is. They find it fun. They really enjoy it. And it suits a particular type of learner. I had a learner who said he hated games, and he sat there. It was class ended at 9:30, a quarter to 10. He was still going. I said, Franz, we have to leave. It's quarter to 10. You said you didn't like games. This isn't a game. It's a logic puzzle. So this kind of thing they really enjoy doing. Any questions about this? So I do have other things to show you. Oh, hi, Fabi. Just wait for the hi. Okay, going to go on to the next. Now, this is from Professional English Online. I forgot to change my bio. The website is no longer, well, it's still there, but it isn't, we're not writing new things for it. But everything on it, all of the activities, all the jargon busters are still there. They are 100% free. They are photocopyable. You do not need to register to pay anything. You can just go to the website, which is, you can't see it, if you type in Professional English Online Cambridge University Press, you will find it. And there is an entire list of activities. There are activities that go along with Business Advantage, but there are also, there's a button all the way on the left that says activities. And there they are listed according to what they are. So this was completing graphs. They had a text where they had to then complete this and work with a partner, and then they had words, these words that are at the top. They then had to write a description of what it was. Oh, thanks, Nikki. Wonderful. And these are also all organized with teaching notes explaining the level. So I think they go from A2 up to C2, and giving you timings and answers and links and so on. Okay. So this was part of one activity. Gap sentences. This is from In Business again. These were presentation phrases because, again, that's something they have to say. They don't really need to learn to read them. So they would get the cards. They would have one. I would like to welcome you all with that, you know, and they had to then find the correct preposition, which was on another card, and slot them in. And they did this in groups, and because they are working together with other people, they're saying the phrases aloud. And I don't know how it is with your students, but getting them to say a phrase correctly, it's a way to get it into their psyche, into their mind, to have them say it a few times so that they remember it when they need it. And it's just a way to get them talking. Those were the prepositions. And then they had to put it in order. That had to do with a presentation. And then this is an example of how to give feedback for a presentation. So when my, yes, exactly, much better than dry lists. One thing that I learned in doing NLP training is when you tell somebody what they do wrong, they could replace it with something else they do wrong. So if you tell a student, do not play with your hair during a presentation, they might start playing with jewelry. If you say, I really like the fact that you kept your hands at your side, or you use them for very nice gestures, that reinforces the good thing. And they know, that is something that I should do again, rather than something I shouldn't do, which I could replace with something worse. So the idea here was to have the people listening actually comment on what they liked. What did they like that the presenter did? What can they learn from that? What language did they notice? Because when they begin to notice that, they also learn how to present. I don't know how many of you feel you learn from watching presenters, but these are things that I notice when I go to conferences, thinking, wow, I want to do that. Of course, we also learn from things that people do wrong, but when I give feedback to somebody, I really like the way you did that, and that helps them with the next time. I give them whatever needs to be taken care of. Say, you have to be careful with walking too much, or I will cover grammar points. But great, you think that this works. Okay, good. So this was another one. This, you can see this is not all the cards. This was 1, 2, 5, and 6. This was from another activity from the Cambridge site where they had to learn to write their note cards. I don't know if any of your students write note cards for presentations. Some people use them, some don't. But they had to think about how to give them a title and then to put in their points to help them to learn to speak more freely. One major problem with student presentations is that they read their slides and they mispronounce words. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Yes. Yeah. It's one of those things. I saw it from at a presentation I was at in Canada years ago, years and years ago in Edmonton, where this was back in the days of OHTs. Somebody laid a typed OHT on the overhead projector. It was after lunch and the lights were off, and said, "And my dissertation is about dot 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 dot." You can imagine how many people stayed awake. It just didn't work. Yeah. Slides controlling the presenter, absolutely. So this is a way to teach them how to write cards, and it is on this website. You can take a look. Okay. This was an activity that came from, I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it was about departments, yeah, where you have A and B, and A has to ask what is number 1, and they see how many letters there are, and B has to describe it. Can anyone describe number 1? Yeah, it's information gap. It's a vocabulary exercise, but it's also, they have to come up with their own definitions. So it's a little trickier. Anyone describing one for A? Yeah, it's very good language practice. Okay. Yes, Marge, this is absolutely after we've done the vocabulary. This is review. Alias game. Okay. So did anyone come up with the definition for 1? I heard it the first time about 20 years ago. I didn't know it. I only knew a different word for this. Ah, yes, Hannah, it is. And in business English, it is also a supplier. This is the word that was used when they were building the factory here for Chrysler. My partner would come home, right, and say, yeah, I had a meeting with the vendor today, and they're selling, they're supplying dot, 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 dot. It became very popular in business English, I'm guessing 20, 25 years ago. I only knew the word supplier, but vendor was used quite often. So they have to come up with the definitions after they've practiced, after they've learned the vocab. Just checking time here. Okay. This one was another gap fill, but each of the words had to do with brand. So they were making collocations. So they had to find the words in the box, put them in, and then they could pull out all those collocations, work with them, use them for writing, and so on. No vendors allowed. Right, those are the ones on the street, but it is used in business English. So this is simply a collocation activity to build their vocabulary, and then to have them, I would have them then come up with definitions for each of those collocations. Okay, moving on. This one is another way to practice vocabulary, to have them read through an article and then find the word in the article which fits this particular definition. And these were colloquial phrases that were in an article. Cambridge had an agreement with a magazine called Management Today, and there were a number of articles that were used to write those activities. So have a look. And these are, of course, more advanced. Okay. This is what the site looked like, if you can see. These were jargon busters. These were some of the last ones I did, I think. And I would find new words in business English, describe what it was, then why it was in the news, and then there were vocabulary exercises to lead into it and a link to an article. They were not allowed to publish the article, but we were allowed to link to it. So I would find an article that used it, like streaming, like what we're doing now, and I did these with my students before we published them, so we'd go through and make sure everything was clear. We'd go through all that vocab, and then we would read the article, and there were discussion questions. So these are all still there. You can take a look. they take probably 20 minutes to do. It's more advanced, I would say, but it's something you can bring into a lesson if you're not sure if you have enough stuff to do. It works, they work very well, and my students really, really like them. Yeah, this is what, so there were different types of vocabulary exercises. This was a gap, there was the vocabulary they had to fill in. This was a matching. There were different ways. My camera seems to be stuck. Ah, okay. Ah, I just got thrown out. Great. Okay. Camera is stuck. Not sure. I think if I turn it off and try turning it back on, is that usually the best? Can you still hear me? Great. Okay, am I thrown out? Okay. No idea what happened. It just froze. It happens sometimes. Okay. So this is using authentic text. I think we were, yeah. And this just shows the, yeah, different vocabulary possibilities, and these are the questions and where you could read about it. Getting very close to the end. So I'm just getting to the end. Things to consider. I would say start slowly. Know where you can get help. Know where the materials are. Find out about people in business. Talk to them. Read articles. Uh, you can join an organization like BELTA or the Business English SIG. I've learned so much from BSIC and the website where we ask each other questions. I'm just about to put another one on about the use of the word budget. Do we stay within budget? Do we stay on budget? What do people say? Go to conferences. I have learned so much at conferences to do all of this work. Social media, like I just mentioned, other skills you have, your people skills, and know your limitations. Don't take on something that you're going to just find doesn't work for you. Okay, just right at the end here. Does anyone have any questions? Can't see the question box because my, oh, I scrolled up. Yeah, okay. I don't see this interview. Okay, I don't see any questions. Show all questions. Okay. Does anyone have any specific questions? Thanks, Nikki. And sometimes I just come up with an idea because something isn't working. An example was I was teaching for the government and I was asked to teach for the department who gave visas and I think passports. And it was not fun. They sent me a copy of the laws in English and in German, told me the group was B2. I got there and they were A1 to some extent. And I found that out when I arrived. I didn't know what to do. So I went through I had made cards and activities and I did what I could. And at the end, I made them go through the material I'd given them and write questions for each other and test each other and just ask each other questions. And we did an outburst game where they had to come up with 5 words that had to do with applying for a passport, and the others had to guess which 5 words they had, or they had to play Say My Word, where they had to make a question and the others guessed the words, and it worked. At the end, it worked. At least they actually were able to say a bit, but that was quite challenging. Advertising service a BE, well, boy, good question. You know, I've been doing this now for over 30 years. I don't know if I ever advertised myself in general. It kind of grew out of my regular English lessons, and then I started getting company courses that I was sent to by the institution I was working for, and then I started working for the companies directly. But I don't think I've ever said I'm a business English teacher. But good question. I think it depends again on your environment. You have to know what people are looking for. So I wanted to give you the sources. Yeah. I would say thank you to everyone. And for those who don't know ELT Picks, have a look at this wonderful website. Nikki, of course, knows this. There are, what are they now, 25,000 photos on the website that you can add into your lessons. And I think, yes, here are the acknowledgements. So here are some of the books you can use. There's a lot out there. This Communicative Business Activities is printed in Austria. The one from 2001 is the one we are hoping to redo. And my email address is there. And the ELT Picks site is there, which I think is very helpful, as well as the Professional English Online and BSIC, of course. And one last thing before I go. Next Saturday, Charles Hadfield, Jill Hadfield's husband, is going to be giving an IATEFL webinar, which is free, and it's at 4 o'clock Central European Time, so 3 p.m. in the UK, and it's called Creative Grammar. Information is all on the IATEFL website, and there is a basic one coming up as well, but I don't have the details. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I hope you found this useful, helpful. I can't hear Ellen. Ellen, is your...
Hello, I'm back again. Yeah, I had to switch it off. Thank you, Marjorie, for your excellent presentation. I think we've all gotten a little bit more of an insight into the differences between general English and business English. And for anybody out there who wants to start, I think that the resources that you drew our attention to are a very good start. Very interactive, and it seems a lot more fun than, you know, just going through a course book and drilling all of these different sentences. So lots and lots of interesting ideas. Thank you so much for that. What can I say still, or what do I need to say? Thank you, of course, all of you for joining us this week. Please join us again on June 7th, when Anna Lozeva will be here with her talk, Flash Mob ELT, Activities from Classrooms Around the World, which promises to be another useful and interesting webinar. I hope you've enjoyed, well, I know that you've enjoyed Marjorie's webinar, and we hope to see you all next time again.
Just one last thing I would say. I have a student who I was bringing articles for, and we were reading them. At one point, he just said, oh, he just kind of, gave a sigh. And I said, why don't I bring a game next week? He said, oh, game, a game. What's so
Yeah.
amazing is that his English is fairly hesitant until he has cards in his hand, and then suddenly he becomes fluent. It's like, what's going on here? But he just needs that it's the two of us moving cards around, but he becomes more confident. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Try it out.
Yeah.
We all think we have to be serious all the time. No, we don't.
Not even in business English,
No, business
apparently.
people
No.
love to have fun. So.
No, it's good to know. It's very good to
Okay,
know. Thank
great.
you
Well,
very much,
thank you
Marjorie.
all. Have a lovely Sunday afternoon and enjoy the sunshine in Belgium while it lasts.
Thank you. We will.
Be here. Send
Thank
it
you
our
very much.
way. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.